Well, good Friday morning, y'all. So I was like, I could help everybody out. I am used to getting a few extra things with the way our storms do in Texas, especially in the winter. Every once in a while, it'll just be like, seriously, like every once in a while we'll get really bad ice on the ground for a couple of days and it's like you don't want to go anywhere. So I've always tended to get just a few extra things, not a ton of things, but just a few extra things just to have just in case weather is bad or anything else is going on. So I wanted to share with y'all just a few stable things that I enjoy getting and it may help y'all. I know lots of people are going for lots of interesting things, but these are some things that I think are good to have on hand and they last for a long time. So, like, whenever storm season passes, then it's like, oh, well, I can just go get this because it's already here. I don't have to go buy it. So, let me show you a few things and just let you know what I do. So, one thing that I like to get is just some quick oats. They heat up really quick. I can add in dried fruit and nuts and just whatever things. But this is one of those things, it stretches well and it lasts a long time. Man, once you open it, you're good. You can go for a while with it. I make oatmeal cookies and just different things. So oats, they do lots of things. In fact, if y'all have ever watched my Swedish meatball recipe, you'll see I add oats instead of breadcrumbs in there. So let's go to the next item. So the next item that I like to have on hand every once in a while, I know as a diabetic I shouldn't be eating this all the time, but every once in a while I get really hungry for some mac and cheese, y'all. And so this is one of those ones. Man, of course, it's another thing that just lasts forever. So if you have an extra box, it'll last, I don't know. I'd look at the expiration date. I would at least keep it for a year. And then if I haven't gotten to it in a year, I'll just have mac and cheese one night. So things like that. Make sure you look at the expiration dates and the ones like, especially if you're like, oh yeah, I'll be eating that this week. Don't worry about it being a year from now. But if you're like, I'm not sure if I'm going to eat it in the next month, then go ahead and get the later date and just check on it. And this one, let me go look for it. I think I looked for it the other day and it didn't have it on there. So I'll probably eat it next week. So that's one of those things. And then one thing I have found at dollar stores, and I actually enjoy getting it more than the regular version because I don't drink a ton of milk. So it is shelf stable milk. So once you open it, you do need to refrigerate it, but it'll stay on the shelf. And this one, the expiration date is until February of next year. So I can open this and I have tested it by 4 weeks. So I had another one, just like this one, and I opened it. I had a little bit. I stuck it in the fridge and it lasted 4 weeks. And of course, smell everything before, especially milk. Smell it and make sure it doesn't smell funny. But y'all, it lasted me 4 weeks before I finished using it. The last thing I had with it was a bowl of cereal. So, it's a little bit sweeter, just so you know, it is a little bit sweeter tasting, kind of like how almond milk is. But man, it lasts well for me. I hope it lasts well for you. And if you're wanting milk and you're like, oh man, I don't know if I can get through that gallon. And a lot of times I would have a trouble getting even through half a gallon just because I don't drink a ton of milk every day. So that's why I started getting this one. And man, it's done great for me. So another thing I get is just especially, I don't know if you've ever had one of those seasonal sinus things where you're just like, man, there's all that pollen. Here comes all that. Get ready for a cold where you got the sniffles and the what else comes with it? The sniffles and the eyes watering and the earaches and all that kind of stuff. And so when you feel kind of puny, You want something kind of like Powerade or Gatorade, something kind of like that. It does have a lot of sugar, so people that are diabetic like me, you got to be really careful. But just a little bit of this helps with your electrolytes and things like that when you're feeling puny and you do not feel like getting out and going to the store. So another thing I like to have on hand are potatoes. They last for a long time, y'all. Just keep them in a dark, cool place and they'll last well for you. And like the other day, I was really wanting to make a shepherd's pie. So I got these and boiled up a few and mashed them up, and then got another one of my staples I like. Got me some canned vegetables and did that with ground beef, so they called it a cottage pie. And y'all, it was delicious. I was like, oh, man, that was so good, and it was so filling, and it would just hit the spot. And I don't have a ton of potatoes all the time, but it was just one of those things. It was nice to have. It was one of those good comfort foods. Another thing I keep on hand, just in case I can't get through the fruit that I buy from the produce section. And, sometimes, y'all, I'm sad to say, sometimes my strawberries spoil before I can get through them. So I'm starting to try and figure out, I need to start cutting them and freezing them and then let them thaw out. So I think I'll start doing that with this next batch I've got. But one of those things, if you just, the fruit doesn't look very good, or you're just wanting to grab something real quick, like to go with cottage cheese or something, y'all, I recommend getting fruit cocktail. You can get it in 100% juice or light syrup is what I recommend. If you can find it in water, that's even better. So it's not a ton of sugar in there. And please don't get it with heavy syrup if you can avoid it. That's just so much sugar on top of the natural sugar in the fruit. But if that's all you can get, go for it. I would recommend draining it, rinsing it, and then eating it if you find it in heavy syrup. So that's another shelf stable I like to get, because sometimes, y'all, that fruit, it just goes too quick on me. Just being me. Oh, I tell you. So then another thing I love to keep on hand, because I love to cook with it a lot, are onions. I keep a good bag of onions on hand. And what I do is I don't wash the full onion when I'm ready to get some of it. I actually cut one end off, and then I cut the next section off that I want to use. Like last night in my pea salad, I cut just a small section of it to chop it. And so what I'll do is wash just that section and then stick it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the fridge. And y'all, it lasts so long. The onion I used last night for my pea salad has actually been in the fridge for 2 weeks in a Ziploc baggie, and it is still perfectly good. So that's one of those things. Keep on your shelf in the kitchen until you're ready to use it. And when you cut it, don't wash the whole onion unless you're going to use the whole onion. Just cut the piece that you're going to use, and then rinse that piece and put the other in a Ziploc bag. Put it in your vegetable shelf in the fridge, and y'all, it lasts well. So then another thing, as a diabetic, I like to have a good healthy fat on hand. And so one thing that I can go for is these peanuts. I have them, they're dry roasted and unsalted. So it's not got a ton of sodium in it, but you get that good fat. So that's just one thing I like to keep on hand, are some good unsalted nuts. So it doesn't add to the sodium intake, but it does give me a good healthy fat. And then another thing I really like, any spice that you enjoy, pick up an extra one. So I love, this is one of my favorite spices. I love it. It's got the herb taste plus the steak taste, and I like it in a lot of stuff, y'all. So just pick up an extra spice. Like if you're knowing that you need to get a spice for a dish you want, go ahead and pick up an extra one. And then another thing that lasts really, really well are Dried beans, y'all. I know some people hate beans. My parents, my great grandparents were actually pinto bean farmers. And so, man, y'all, ever since I was a little kid, we were eating beans like crazy. We'd have beans with chili. We'd have beans. I know that's a bad thing, y'all. But some people don't like beans and chili. That's okay. Y'all can have it however you want your chili. But I like to add beans. And then I also, when you boil them down really well, you can also make your own refried beans, y'all. So if you're hungry for like nachos, man, boil you up some good beans, mash them really well, cook them just a little bit, add a little bit of extra spice of what you like. Like I had chili powder in there if I'm going to do nachos. Then spread it on your tortilla chip and put some cheese on there. Stick that in the oven for just a minute. So good. So that's one thing with beans. They go a long way and they last almost forever, especially dried beans. And another thing, like if you have kids in the house and just if you're hungry for, you need something for a sweet tooth, these animal crackers, once you open them, you can reseal them again. And y'all, they last so well and they get that sweet tooth. They really help with that sweet tooth. At least for me, they do. And I try not to have too many. Y'all, a few months ago, I got the iced ones and that was a no-no. So these ones, they're not as tempting to eat a ton of. And so, yeah. So I have these. And then the last thing I have, because y'all, every woman needs her chocolate. So I usually keep like a bar or two of dark chocolate on hand. And if I'm eating it the right way, I'll only have a few pieces at a time. But, lately I've been eating the whole bar in a day. So, just to be quite honest. So just some things that if you're kind of wondering, oh, what should I get? What should I stock up on? What are some good things that last a while? Those are just some of the things that I would suggest. But I hope y'all are doing well. I hope this helped you a little bit. And I hope y'all have a great day and get ready because the daily update from last night is almost loaded. I fell asleep last night, so this morning I'm catching up. But I will catch y'all later today for the garden tour and then this evening for the daily update. And as always, y'all, if you like this video, hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell. And I will catch y'all later on today.